Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Chris Skinner with Schwartz, Page and Harding. I am the General Counsel for Fort Bend County Levy Improvement District number 7. Welcome to the special Board of Directors meeting of Wednesday, September 9th, 2020. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, let me remind everyone that this is a formal meeting of the Board of Directors of the district, and as such is being recorded as is required by Texas state law. For those speaking, please remember to clearly state your name prior to speaking. And for purposes of keeping the meeting minutes as required by law for this meeting, I need to do a roll call of those members and consultants, board members and consultants who are in attendance. So let me do a quick roll call of board members, starting with the board chairman, Jim Grody.
Here.
Vice Chairman, Cindy Picazo.
Here.
Secretary, Jerry Kazmierzak.
Here.
Assistant Secretary, Jeff Hannig.
Here.
And Director, Michael Pinkham.
Here.
Joining the board tonight, in addition to myself as consultants, Bill Ayler with LJA Engineering.
Here.
Bob Barden with LJA Engineering.
Here.
From Touchstone Services, Michael Willett.
Here.
And Michelle Johnson.
Here.
And I'll also note that Matt Reed with Schwartz, Page and Harding is in attendance as well. I believe that covers all of the consultants. Are there any other consultants that I missed or failed to recognize? If not, then I'll turn the floor over to Board Chairman, Director Grody. Jim?
Those of you who don't know me, my name's Jim Grody. I'm one of 5 directors on the LID 7 board. I'm the chairman. What we're going to go over tonight is really a follow-up to Harvey. After Hurricane Harvey, this board was given a directive to go out there and improve the flood protection of New Territory, and specifically we're going to talk about pumpage. Right now, New Territory has a single pump station that has a 66,000 gallon per minute capacity. That's 4 pumps at 22,000 gallons per minute. You have to have a spare, so that's 66,000 gallons per minute. Bill Ayler, who's going to lead the presentation who's our district engineer with LJA, conducted a drainage study, and the outcome of that, and when you look at this, you have to look at both detention and pumpage. Detention is where water goes when the rain comes down hard, and then pumpage is where you get it out of the community. These are for what we call coincident events, meaning the river has to be up. If the river's down, then the gates are open and we don't need pumpage. But for a coincident event, like we had with Harvey, that drainage study revealed that we need an additional 115 acre feet of detention and certified 280,000 gallons per minute of pumpage. So right now we're at 66,000 gallons per minute, and we need 280,000 gallons per minute. So that's an enormous increase. In order to do that, we're having to build a new pump station right across from the existing pump station. It is the toughest part of this is going to require us to acquire 3 homes, buy out 3 homes and put the pump station in that location. So Bill's going to take you through this presentation. This is just a quick overview. When it's done, we'll have a question and answer session, and we'll be here as long as you want to answer your questions. So Bill, if you would take over, please.
Sure, thank you, Jim. My name is Bill Ayler. I'm with LJA Engineering, and if I speak too loud, I'm sorry. I'm a loud speaker. Just turn your volume down. I'm going to be presenting on the new stormwater pump station to serve Fort Bend County Levy Improvement number 7. Hopefully everybody can see my PowerPoint here. So generally we're going to talk about Fort Bend Levy Improvement District 7, provide general understanding of the district and its facilities, how levies work, overview of the levy operations, what's been happening for the last year and a half, the timeline of the district experiences and events, drainage study. This is a study that LJA has prepared on behalf of the district. The engineering recommendations to alleviate flood risk within the district. New pump station that LJA is recommending. Review of how the decision to build the new pump station was determined. And what to expect next, the construction timeline. We're going to talk a little bit about the financials, and in summary, we'll kind of just reiterate what I stated in the presentation, but then we'll open it up for question and answer. For those that understand, go to meeting, there is a way to send your questions as this presentation is ongoing. We will not address your questions until the end of the presentation. Additionally, for your benefit, the district has a website at www.fbclid7.com. This presentation and 2 engineering reports that my company has prepared is on the site. One is for the pump station analysis, and one is for the drainage plan update that we did. So this is a exhibit of your district. You are bounded on the west by the Smith Ranch property, on the north by 90A, on the east by Telfair community, and on the south by the Brazos River. You can see in the middle there's an out tract that is delineated by red. It is just north of Ellis Creek and east of 99. Your levee is the pink line that goes along your west, southern boundary and eastern boundary. And on the southwest side of your district, we have a stormwater pump station. It's near one of your water plants at the end of New Territory Boulevard. You also have Ellis Creek, which provides drainage internally. And you have a number of lakes on the east side of 99, which provides both amenity and detention. You have an external channel, which is just west of your boundary, and it goes to a southeast direction into the Brazos River at the south west corner of your property. So I'm going to just generally describe the district's facilities and how they generally work, and I'll get into more detail as I get into the presentation. But we design your levee system with 2 scenarios. One is a gravity event and one is a coincident event. Let's describe the gravity event. So the gravity event occurs when the river is down. We're not in a flood stage, but we have rain that occurs over the district. It falls within the leveed area. During that event, the water will run off lots and commercial reserves into streets and then to storm sewers, and then ultimately finds its way to Ellis Creek. That water drains in a southwest direction down to your stormwater pump station. Your stormwater pump station has an outfall structure, which is a number of large pipes, 10 by 10 box culvert pipes. You have 5 of them, and each one of them has a hinged gate. We call them flap gates. When the water on the outside of the levee is lower than the water on the inside, you have gravity flow and the water flows out into the external channel and then to the Brazos River. The other scenario is when the river is up, and we call that the coincident event. So when your river is up, we'll just say it's in flood stage. We design the inside of your levee system to be able to accommodate a coincident event here locally. Please understand that during a flooding event on the Brazos, it is not necessarily caused by water that falls in the general area of Sugar Land. It typically is occurring hundreds of miles upstream. And the water will flow down the Brazos, down to our area, where it creates a flooding event. Your levee protects us from that flood event. We provide enough storage and pumping inside the levee system, because during that event, water on the outside of the levee is going to be higher than water on the inside of the levee. At least that's the way we hope it is. And the water can't flow out passively. So we must pump it out using the pump station and storing it in your channel and the lakes that you see on the east side of 99. So those are the two events that we deal with by your levee system. So what does LID 7 do for you? Well, it does two pretty important things. The first one is it provides you flood protection from flooding on the Brazos River. The levee system protects approximately 2,050 acres. Our levee system includes 6 miles of levees, 66,000 gallon per minute pumping station, and 9 flap gates that gravity outfall into your external channel on the west side. It also provides with gravity flow. And you have approximately 5 miles of drainage channels, which include the external channel on your west boundary and Ellis Creek, which is internal to your district. We also have 10 detention/amenity ponds. One thing that I want to clarify here is that the storm sewers that are in your public roadways are not levee system facilities. Those facilities are owned and operated by the city of Sugar Land. The facilities that the district owns and operates are those that I just covered with my previous explanation on that first slide. So this is a graphic that further clarifies the difference between the gravity and the coincident event. This is showing the gravity scenario. So it shows that the Brazos River is down. You have a flap gate at your outfall structure. Water on the inside of your district is higher than water on the outside, so the gate will be open. If you get rain internally within the district, it flows through the streets, into the storm sewer, into Ellis Creek, through your outfall structure, and then ultimately to the Brazos River. This is another graphic showing your coincident event. So now we have a flood stage on the river. Water on the outside of the levee is higher than on the inside of the levee. We do not have gravity outfall. The flap gates are closed. Water falls internally, the coincident event, typically the 10-year event local. Your pump station will begin to operate and it will pump 66,000 gallons per minute of water under the levee into the external channel and ultimately to the Brazos River. But as Jim had mentioned earlier when he presented, you're going to have, when we get rain locally, the pump station alone cannot get rid of all that water. It's just does not have that much capacity. So you need a buffering or a shock absorber, and that's your detention system. So Ellis Creek and the ponds on the east side of 99 are the shock absorbers, which allows the pump station to slowly pump the water out until we get the next event. So it's important that we have both components, both the pumping and the storage, to make everything work efficiently. Here's a picture that was taken during Hurricane Harvey. Both pictures are from Harvey. I can assure you that your previous engineer and any engineers that have worked in your district did not design the system to work like this. Hurricane Harvey was an extreme event. It dropped approximately 30 inches of rain over 4 days within your area of Sugar Land. Other areas of Sugar Land got more water. On top of that, the river was at flood stage. And if you remember the two scenarios I explained, one is a gravity and one is a coincident. The coincident was designed for something less than what Harvey dropped on your district. The amount of water we designed for is less than 9 inches, and obviously there was much more rain that fell in your district. During that event, approximately 3 structures were flooded, and you had widespread flooding throughout the community and a number of cars were also impacted. Let's fast forward now in May 7th of 2019. We had another event that occurred in Sugar Land area. We had about 8 to 10 inches of rainfall that fell within a very short period of 4 hours. Understand that most of these events that we design for as engineers are happening over 24 hours. And I'll get into the details of that later in the presentation. But not only did we have very intense rain, which overwhelmed your storm sewers because they're not designed to accommodate that kind of flow, but the Brazos River rose fairly quickly to impede gravity flow and allow water to leave your district. So what resulted was we had widespread street flooding, and we had many cars that got flooded while trying to make it through the high water in the streets. Over the years, the various local governmental agencies have increased the design criteria for engineers, specifically for just everyday development, not necessarily just for levee improvement districts, but a lot of the same rules govern for levee districts. And if anything, levee districts have more requirements. Back when your district was first created, the freeboard requirement for a levee district or for any structure in Fort Bend County was 12 inches. And you're probably wondering, what is freeboard? Well, the definition is as follows. Freeboard is the vertical distance between the top of a structure foundation and the anticipated water surface elevation of a certain design storm as required by the governmental entity. So we typically design, as I stated earlier, for the coincident event and for the gravity event. So for the coincident event, it's the 10-year storm locally. For the gravity event, it's the 100-year storm locally. So what this means is that when we design channels internally or your storm sewers, but for levee improvement districts, the channels, then what we do is we design the system so that whatever the expected ponding would be within the district is always 12 inches lower than the lowest minimum slab within the community. So now we fast forward to 2011, and Fort Bend County adopted new design standards, and they increased the freeboard to 18 inches. Understand that as a levee district that is fully developed, the county is not going to require that you meet that standard, although I can tell you that the judge and the commissioners and the county as a whole would hope that the districts would try to stay up to their criteria. They would potentially grandfather you from having to meet that requirement. In 2018, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, better known as NOAA, increased rainfall totals used for the design storms, or better known as Atlas 14. And what this means is, as I was stating earlier, as an engineer, we design for the 100-year event, which we assume would occur over a 24-hour period of time. And then the old criteria prior to Atlas 14, the estimate for the 100-year event in our area of Texas would be 12.5 inches in 24 hours. Well, NOAA, using statistical information, better information than what was estimated by actuaries many years ago, has found that the actual 100-year that they see is 16.5 inches within a 24-hour time frame. Additionally, this Atlas 14 does affect other return storm intervals, including the 10-year event that we designed the coincident for. During a 24-hour rainfall event, it went from 8.2 inches to 8.55 inches. Subsequently, both Fort Bend County and the city of Sugar Land have adopted the Atlas 14 concept. And I can tell you, there's not many counties in the greater Houston area that have not adopted that criteria. Many other levee districts have initiated changes to their levee protection, their flood protection system, to adopt this criteria and analyze their system to find out how it would react when you use these higher volumes of water for these different events. So getting into more of the weeds on Atlas 14. So Atlas 14 came out in October 2018 by NOAA. They released volume 11 of Atlas 14, point precipitation frequency estimates. And again, they're using better statistical data. Understand, when we're talking about a 100-year event, then they would have to have enough data to be able to say that we've had events that are equating to what we believe as scientists to be 100-year events. But we haven't been around long enough, or we haven't been keeping enough data to be able to accurately estimate that. So in the past, their estimate was 12.5 inches for the 100-year event. Well, now they're looking at better information, and they think it's closer to 16.5 inches for the 100-year event. So as I stated, both Fort Bend County and the city of Sugar Land have adopted this. Your district representatives believe that it's to the best interest of the district to also adopt these this concept. And back in last year, I, as your district engineer, was asked to evaluate the district system without improvements, but to use the 100-year Atlas and the 10-year Atlas events on the district system, and to see what would happen with those rainfall volumes. And we've completed that. Additionally, the district had asked us to increase our freeboard in the district from 12 inches to 18 inches. Please understand that if we kept everything the same today and we lower the water surface, thus increasing freeboard, then what happens is you're taking away your storage. So the way you mitigate for that is you have to provide more pumping and you have to provide more storage. So you have to acquire more land to store the water, and you have to expand your pumping system to provide more pumping capacity. The results of our study showed that in order to adopt the Atlas 14 concept for the coincident event, 115 acre-feet of additional storage needed to be added to the district system, and an additional 210,000 gallons per minute of pumping needed to be added. Please remember that your existing pump station is 66,000 gallons per minute. So we're looking at more than tripling the size of the pumping that we need to accomplish these goals. So this is a nice exhibit that kind of shows you the concept of freeboard based on your current design. Based on, if we don't assume Atlas 14 rainfall volumes and we stick with the 12.5 inches of rainfall and the older 10-year rainfall coincident volumes, the expected ponding within your district would be elevation 72. And the lowest slab elevation, as we currently know, is 73. So you have 12 inches of freeboard. If you adopt Atlas 14 and you implement the additional 6 inches of freeboard, going to 18 inches of freeboard, then the internal water surface needs to be lowered to approximately 71.5 as your new critical flood elevation. As I explained earlier, you are going to lose storage in your existing system, but we're mitigating that by adding additional pumping and by acquiring more property to build additional storage to accomplish this goal. So what's been done to date? In June of last year, the district authorized LJA to initiate the preparation of your master drainage update. This included modeling of the existing system, analyzing the existing system to accommodate the Atlas 14 volumes, and then implementing a proposed condition to increase freeboard, and then subsequently recommend whatever improvements necessary to accomplish those goals. In February of 2020, we began looking at various pumping station designs, preliminary engineering, and site locations. Now understand that we can do this only because we had the modeling completed and we knew about how much pumping would be necessary in order to accomplish the goals. In May of 2020, LJA completed our drainage analysis and we submitted to the City of Sugar Land and Fort Bend County for review and comment and ultimately approval. Additionally, in May, we completed our pump station design alternatives evaluation, and in June of 2020, we presented our recommendations to the board on what we believe would be the best location and pump station size to accommodate the ultimate goals for the district. In June of 2020, the district approved the recommendations presented by the engineer. So I will apologize, but I am going to be a little redundant here. I think it's important that we all remember the goals and recommendations. So again, our recommendations are that we implement Atlas 14 storm volumes for the analysis of our drainage system, that we agree with the district in increasing freeboard to be in accordance with the Fort Bend County Drainage District 2011 standards and provide a minimum of 18 inches of freeboard within the district system. In order to accomplish this, that we increase the pumping capacity from 66,000 gallons per minute to 276,000 gallons per minute minimum. That we add an additional 115 acre feet of storage, and that we implement the 10-year coincident event analysis. We believe if we implement these philosophies that it will improve the district system and minimize the potential of flooding structures within the district's levee protection system. This is a pretty provocative exhibit. This exhibit shows that if we put the Atlas 14 drainage on the district during the coincident event, this is when we do not have gravity outfall. If we make no improvements in the district system, we don't add 115 acre feet of storage or 210,000 gallons per minute of pumping, that this is what's going to occur. The dark blue represents the flooding of the streets. The light blue is shallower depths within the lots. You can see there's numerical numbers around different areas of the district. Remember, my goal was to get the water surface to be no higher than 71.5. If we do nothing, we're going to far exceed those elevations within the system, and it would potentially result in flooding of lots, homes, and some commercial areas. I was a little bit surprised. Up in the northeast side of the community, apparently we have some streets up in that area that are also relatively low. We did understand that in the south east area of the district that some of these structures that flooded in Harvey were located in this area. So the map makes sense, but I will say that I was surprised on just how much of the levee district would be impacted. This next exhibit shows with the same rainfall event, the coincident event with the river up, if we made the improvements with the pumping and the detention, this would be the result. You can still see some ghosting of blue in some of the streets, but you're not inundating lots or businesses. And it's a significant improvement. And obviously it meets the goals. The numerical elevations, you can see 7133, 7136. We pretty well met it everywhere. You can see there's a 7225 right on the central eastern area. There's a lake there. There's a 7173 on the other side of Ellis Creek and a 7263. We have evaluated those elevations and we do not have an issue with that because we did review topography in that area and the plats for the subdivisions, and we still maintain a minimum of 18 inches of freeboard in those areas. So later in this presentation, I'm going to explain to you that we looked at 5 different locations for our pumping station. And obviously the first place to look would have been to expand our existing plant site. And you know, that's where we focused on in the very beginning. But in the end, what we found is that there are too many shortfalls on that site to make it a viable location to accomplish the 210,000 gallons per minute of pumping that we need. So the first one is that plant is over 28 years old and it's nearing its useful life. The other thing that needs to be remembered is no matter what we do, no matter where we build the new plant, it cannot impact the ability to operate the existing plant. We must maintain flood protection to the district at all times. Some folks have recommended that we just put temporary pumps out there and let that take the place of our permanent pumping station. That is, as an engineer, that makes me cringe, and I would never recommend that. That's not a reliable substitution of a permanent plant. We have very limited room between our outfall structure that exists in that plant and the levee, which is to the west of that structure. Additionally, we're surrounded by a water plant that is owned and operated by the city of Sugar Land. So our ability to expand that plant without impacting the ability to operate the plant is very limited. And any attempt to do it would be very risky and very costly. We believe, and we have inquired with contractors that do plants for a living, that build plants for a living, generally what they thought in trying to construct other infrastructure that we would need in the new plant and route that through the existing plant. And we got a lot of negative feedback, and very large numbers were thrown around. But we believe that if you're looking on cost on a per gallon basis, that the cost to do that would be significantly higher trying to retrofit something in that old plant than if we were just to build a brand new modern plant in a different location. We also believe that the new plant would be more reliable and more efficient in utilizing electricity when operating the plant. And because of these inherent characteristics of that existing plant, we have recommended that the district not try to expand that plant. So if we're not going to do it there, then where are we going to do it? What are the characteristics that we look for to locate a pump station? Well, I can tell you the previous engineer, for the most part, got it right. The biggest hurdle for me, and one thing I didn't mention for the existing pump station is access. If anybody's been out there to see this, the only way your operator can get in and out of that plant is they have to drive to the end of New Territory Boulevard and go up on a levee on a road that's 10 feet wide, and then it drop 8 feet into that plant site over a very short run on a very steep driveway. That is pretty bad access, okay? Everything else, I think they got it right for the most part. You need to locate the new pump station in the lowest part of your gravity system. And the reason for that is the whole goal is to remove as much water from inside the levee to outside the levee. If you're upstream, you're not going to be able to remove all the water. You can have the biggest pumping station in the world, but you'll still have volume left. So you want it to be at the lowest end of Ellis Creek. So where the existing plant is makes sense. You also want to make sure that the pump station is as close to your levee as possible. As an engineer, we want to shorten the length of any force mains and any gravity storm sewer outfalls for the pump station. Understand that these things are buried in the ground and earth moves all the time, and they exert forces on pipes. Pipes can come undone, they can crack, and the longer the pipe is, the more potential risk there is that there would be a failure. So you want to keep it as short and as close to your outfall. You don't want to deal with the water any more than you have to, and having it right next to the levee is what you need. As I stated earlier, the pump station that exists today must remain operational at all times during construction. So whatever site we pick must not impact that ability. We need to have adequate street access. As I stated, your existing plant does not have good access. And we'll talk about other options that we evaluated that didn't provide that access either. But it must provide access not only for emergency operations, but it has to provide access for maintenance. If we ever have to pull pumps for maintenance, those get put on tractor trailers and hauled off. To maneuver a tractor trailer over a levee would be very difficult. If we have to have fuel delivered during an emergency, that piece of equipment needs to be able to get in and out without difficulty. We also want to make sure that the plant location is located in an area where electrical facilities exist that can serve the ultimate needs of a 210,000 gallon per minute pumping station. We don't want to have to pay CenterPoint hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to extend or upgrade their facilities to be able to serve our needs. Additionally, we have been evaluating the potential of natural gas to operate our generators. And that is something else that we've been looking at. We want to minimize impacts to residents from the noise of operations and the aesthetics of the plant. There are some of the options that we looked at that we had no room but to put the generators on top of the levee where the entire, all the residents of the community could see this. It would be an eyesore. The other thing that's really important is to consolidate all the equipment in one plant site. You never want equipment to be, a generator's 500 feet away, other pieces of equipment in different places where your operator is going to be doing their day-to-day operations or dealing with your plant during an emergency. They're not going to potentially see something that's failing if it's 500 feet away, or to fix the problem becomes more difficult. In the end, LJA recommended this option. This option is to acquire 3 lots, 3 homes in the SF34 subdivision, and to build the intake structure within the district's drainage easement adjacent to the west levee, but north of the existing pump station site. This location satisfies everything that we need for the that we look for in the characteristics of a good stormwater pump station site. Additionally, it gave us other things to do to better the community and have minimal impact to the community. The red lines that you see on this exhibit show a proposed 8-foot brick wall. We've done something similar to this at the water reuse plant that we built adjacent to an existing subdivision within the community. And if you go out there, it really looks great. I mean, it really adds quality to the community. The other thing that we're doing here is the blue shape is the proposed pump building, the proposed control building. We're going to hire an architect to help us ensure that that building is consistent with the architecture within the community. The brick facade that would be used on that building and the wall would be consistent with everything else in the community. This site also provides excellent access in and out for maintenance and operations. It also allows us to consolidate all the equipment into one site. So what were the different options that we considered? I'm going to briefly go through this. Please understand that I have posted my analysis on the district site, and there's a lot more detail included in that analysis to help anybody that's interested. So please review that. But as I stated, we looked at 5 different locations. The first one was the existing plant site. As I explained, that is not an option in my opinion. The second location we looked at are the baseball fields. There's a small park just to the east of the water plant that the city owns and operates. It's just south of Ellis Creek near the existing stormwater pump station. Unfortunately, as I explained to you earlier, this requires very large pumps, generators, which adds cost to the project. It requires that we cross underneath Ellis Creek with the force mains, and it would require much longer force mains and a gravity outfall than we would recommend. We feel that this is not the optimal design, and it definitively was one of the most expensive options that we considered. The only good thing about it was that it provided good access, and it did take the plant further away from existing development. The third option was to propose the plant by acquiring land from the Smith Ranch, by proposing the plant on the west side of the existing pump station, essentially rebuilding the outfall structure, which includes 5 10-by-10 boxes, sluice gates, flap gates, and access was not good. This option was very expensive and was equivalent to the second option in cost. The fourth option we evaluated was to spread the equipment out within property that the district owned, putting the intake structure on the north side, just north of the existing pump station on Ellis Creek, but putting pieces of equipment at different locations on the levee and different locations, and it just was not an ideal situation on a maintenance and operational standpoint, and definitively did not provide access. And cost-wise, it was not significantly cheaper than what we ultimately recommended. In the end, we recommended that we do a combination of putting equipment on the north side of where the existing plant is, put the intake structure in Ellis Creek near the levee, but acquiring 3 residential lots to accomplish the ultimate goals and meet the characteristics of a good pump station site. That was presented to the board for consideration and was approved June of this year. So where do we go from here? Well, we need to start the detailed design of the pump station because these projects take a long time, and we know the residents of New Territory are anxious to see improvements to their flood protection system. I will say we have not gotten into the detailed design, but we have been doing preliminary design of the plant. I anticipate that the district will authorize me within the next few weeks to initiate that work, but we're probably about a month behind what we have here. We also need to finalize financing. Your financial advisor has done a great job on putting together financial models for different scenarios. And really they revolve around getting free money, grant money from either the federal government or the state government of Texas. So she has run different scenarios and recommended to the district a tax rate that would potentially cover all costs of projects that we have planned for the future, which includes your erosion protection project on the Brazos River, that includes this project, and includes building the additional 115 acre-feet of storage. We anticipate that we will be able to finalize that financing concept in April of 2021, because we should have a really good knowledge of whether we're getting certain grants that we're counting on. Complete property acquisition. Your board has already initiated discussions with the 3 affected residents. They have completed an appraisal of their homes, and it's my understanding within the next week they will be presented with an offer on their property. But it takes time to close, and we anticipate that that will be completed sometime in May of next year. Receive permit approvals. We believe by May of 2021 that LJA will complete the design of this project, and we will have received our core permits and approvals from the city and from the county. We would initiate advertisements for the bidding of the pump station in June, and we anticipate starting construction July of 2021. Although we only believe that we should be able to complete this project within 12 months, we've added a little extra time and believe that the project should not be completed any later than October of 2022. So what's next? What should the district expect? Well, at some point, we would initiate the demolition of the 3 homes to prepare the site for mobilization by our contractor. There would be deep excavation within Ellis Creek to install the pump intake structure. As part of that, there's going to be shoring, dewatering, and so forth, but the residents aren't going to see any of this because we'll have a construction fence around the site, and unless they're allowed access, that wouldn't be visible to from the street. The district should understand that there's going to be concrete pours, there's going to be delivery of materials, of equipment, and so forth. Typically, this happens periodically from day to day, but there may be large deliveries that occur at certain milestones of the project. There will be large cranes within the project site to help build the project. At the end of the project, because it takes approximately 9 months to fabricate the pumps that we will need for this project, about 9 months into the project, we would have multiple semis that would be delivering the pumps to have them installed. The general work hours are expected to be between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, but that could fluctuate depending on the needs of the contractor. So one thing that we have that's very beneficial is we have Mike Stone and Associates that is a consultant for this district. And LID 7 is not the only levy district in the greater Sugar Land area that's doing the same thing that we are. LID 2 is in the process, as I understand it, of building a pump station, much larger, but building a pump station within their community. And so some of these things are second nature to Mike and his guys. But the things that they've experienced with the neighborhood concerns are the transportation of vehicles in and out of the neighborhood. We have really no other way of getting to this site other than through new territory. We will work with the contractor to minimize the route that he takes. We are going to make sure that he does not park equipment or trucks in the public streets, that they will be forced to park only within the construction site. And if he cannot, that he has a secondary staging area somewhere else that prevents him from cluttering the streets with equipment, and so that we don't have major impacts to any of the residents in the area where this plant will be built. Additionally, as with any construction project, even when you build a new home, there's a certain amount of dirt and debris that will accumulate in the streets. As part of their SWIP requirements, the contractor will have to clean the streets daily. We will have field reps on site that represent my company and Mike Stone's company that will make sure that the contractor is coordinated with appropriately and that he keeps up with his cleaning, trash, and any of that stuff to maintain a good, clean construction site. Other issues were safety and security. Obviously, there's going to be equipment and people working, and we don't want there to be any concerns of the residents that kids can get hurt. So they're going to be constructing security fencing around the site, and then ultimately we will be building a permanent wall and security gates to prevent access to the site when the project is completed. They will also have cameras installed to make sure that the site is monitored during construction and when construction has ceased for the day. What to expect after construction? Well, I can tell you there's two things that need to be stated here. It's what to expect before we design and what to expect after construction. Well, this district is committed to the residents of New Territory that this facility is not going to be some industrialized looking facility. They have committed to hiring architects and going the extra yard to ensure that we can save as many trees that exist in the front of the lots of these 3 lots that we're trying to acquire. And they're going to plant additional landscaping in front and within the plant site to provide shielding from the adjacent residents and to make this facility look and complement the community. The plan, like I stated earlier, is to put a brick facade on the building, to have a brick wall, to have a standing seam metal roof. I've also found that there are roofs that are made of metal that look like standard shingle roofs. That might be another concept that we implement. But the point is that we're going to have an architect on staff. We're going to put some renderings together, both for the buildings and also for the landscaping, and this is going to be shared with the community. How that is implemented, I'm going to leave that up to the district, but as I understand it, that's the goal of the district. The other very important thing is that we as engineers are going to we're going to implement preventative measures to limit the noise pollution generated from the site during operations. We believe that there's enough space within the site to put sound walls where they're necessary and to face certain equipment in a certain direction to minimize noise going into the public road where people live. So this rendering was provided from LID 2. I think this is the concept they ultimately picked, but this is kind of what I'm talking about and what our goal is. We're going to come up with renderings similar to this, and we're going to have a few to share with the residents of the district, and we're all going to work together to come up with the one that makes the most sense. LJA has put together a cost estimate for this project. The anticipated construction cost of this project is $10,500,000 approximately. Engineering is about 1.9 million. Property acquisition, legal, and expenses is approximately 1.2 million. So the total cost expected is approximately $13,573,000. So as you all may know, this project and the others I mentioned earlier are a few of the projects that are planned for the district to improve the flood protection within the boundaries of this district. Back in 2018, LID 7 voters approved a bond election in the amount of $121,150,000. I know that your board is looking everywhere they can to not spend this amount of money. They're trying to find grants or inexpensive financing to fund these projects. As I stated earlier, your financial advisor has put a number of financial analyses together, and has recommended to the district a tax rate of 43 cents per 100 assessed value. We believe that this should be enough to cover the costs of the projects that we have discussed today. Benefits to new territory. We have $1.5 million worth of value within the levied area of the district, and preventing flooding in the district is a very important goal for your board, and I would assume for the rest of the residents in the community. Having a reputation, I know as an engineer, if some project has a reputation of having a flooding problem, those projects don't do too well. So that could potentially impact values in your district, and the goal is to not allow that to happen. We believe by implementing what LJA has recommended by our drainage study, that we will improve drainage within your district and get it closer to meeting the criteria of the governmental entities which govern your area. We feel that the flood protection improvements are going to benefit all residents of the district. As I stated earlier, this presentation and the other reports that I have prepared are on the district's website and can be found at this location. Again, my name is Bill Ayler, and we can open this up to question and answer.
Thanks, Bill. That's a good job. Michael Willett, let me put my face out here so we can see. Again, for the benefit of everybody out there, my name's Jim Grody. I'm the chairman of LID 7. The other 4 directors are with us tonight also. And so Michael Willett is with Touchstone. He's facilitating this discussion. And if there are any questions, they've been submitted to him. So Michael, do you have any questions for do any of the residents have questions for the board or for Bill?
Yes. I'm going to start from oldest to newest. So the oldest was asked by Nathan Bach. How many homes would be flooded and condemned in the 0.001% annual chance of a coincident event?
All right. Well, Bill, I think that's going to have to be you to answer that one.
0.00? Is that what I understood, the question?
Yeah.
0.001, or what was it?
Yeah, it was 0.001.
I don't have an answer. We don't design things to that level. We design it to the 1% chance. So 0.01. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
Like a
But
10,000 year
I will
event?
tell you, my cell phone number is on here. So if the person that posed that question wants to call me, maybe he can clarify that question a little bit better, and I can discuss that with him after this presentation.
Yeah, let's do that. And so, Michael, what's the next question?
The next question was, LID 7 has had a very successful recent bond issuance where our cost of debt was significantly lower than expected. How does the savings from that event compare with the additional approximately $3 million cost of constructing the pump station somewhere other than someone's living room?
All right, so those are two separate questions. First of all, we did have a $60 million bond sale with an interest rate of 2%, which was historically low. That helps us keep our tax rate. We believe we can get through all these projects. We're not entirely sure what we're doing on the north side. There's a lot of projects in play, but we think that we can keep our tax rate at the existing 43, and there are no other options. I mean, when you look at the decision process we went through where we came up with the selection where it is, that's because it makes absolutely the most sense to put it there. And that wasn't a question of whether there's 3,000 or 3 million or not 3 million. So there is a document on the website. Bill went and the board asked him to put together an examination of the alternatives that we went through. And so that can be read on the website. We're not going to go through it tonight simply because it would add another hour and a half to this meeting. But that document explains why we selected this location that we did. And that's independent of any $3 million. That decision-making process took us over 2 years to reach. And it's not a question of anybody's living room. It's about what is the best decision as far as protecting this community from flooding. So let's go on to the next question, Michael.
All right. If the money is quote unquote free per the LID 7 engineer, why are we not getting enough free money to not destroy our neighbors' homes?
All right, so I'm not even sure I want to answer that. I mean, it's not free money, and this is not a constructive question. If there are constructive questions out there, I think the board's happy to answer them. But again, we're all residents of New Territory. None of this, of course, is taken lightly. This decision is absolutely not only the best one, but we were elected with a directive to protect this community from flooding. And this is just as what required to do it. So let's skip that one. And if you've got another one, go ahead, Bill. Michael, tell us what it is.
Many of us are now working from home. How would heavy construction from a 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day but Sunday impact that?
Well, you know, it is for the Crescent Ridge residents, there's no getting away from it, that's where the construction's going to be. We'll do our best to watch the noise, keep the streets clean, but it is a necessary component of building this plant. And so I think that we're just going to have to do our best to keep the noise under control, but it's just what it is.
The next question is, how will the heavy trucks, cranes, and other equipment clear the heavily wooded streets in Crescent Ridge?
I can tell you, based on some of the projects that I've worked on in the past, there will probably be, as part of the contract, some pruning of trees to ensure that when the equipment goes through that they don't damage the trees. So that's a very valid point, but that would have to be considered in the bid package.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We don't want to damage the trees. Of course, any pruning, we'll contact the homeowners and, of course, pay for all the costs by the lid.
Yeah, we ended up doing the same thing, Jim. If you remember, on the external channel, we had to prune the trees for the access road going to the wastewater plant.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
Telfair engaged in anything similar to the lid? Or similar to this for their lid? How are these improvements being coordinated with the adjacent lid in Telfair?
So I am in contact with David Gornett, who's the director with in the Telfair lid. I believe that's lid 17.
It is.
They've just sold some bonds. The design of their plant is different. They designed that one as an LGA design. Of course, Telfair was built in the 2000s, and they have set aside enough land where they can actually expand their plant without impacting any homeowners. There's no trees on that side. It's a different design. I will say that one of the things that's frustrated us as a board is we never felt that there was any thought given to expanding the existing site. So, you know, one of the reasons we're having to purchase these homes, and one of the reasons why it's taken us so long and why it's so expensive, is that we just had no options. This plant was built, and then it was constrained in its location by a water plant and the main sanitary sewer. And so a big struggle for this decision was how to fit it in when no thought was given to expansion. For Telfair, if you were to go out there and look at their pump station, I think it was. I think it's very expandable. And the engineers that designed that had more forethought than what we're having to deal with.
And they also, that's a much newer plant. The criteria had, I think they were governed by the 2011 criteria. So they probably don't have to do as much to satisfy what we're trying to accomplish.
I think so. They got the interest rates that they paid were 1.9%. Lid 7 got a 2%. And so that actually was a big help in keeping down our tax rate. All right, Michael, what else we have?
The next question is, what's going on with the work on the Brazos? Wasn't part of that money going towards that?
So actually the bonds that we sold recently are for the Brazos River. We may need to sell additional bonds to pay for this pump station, but we raised the tax rate a couple of years ago, and we have close to $9 million on hand. So we're working through those finances. But as far as that project goes, FEMA is reimbursing us 75% for all qualified work. And in order to get it qualified, you have to jump through a lot of hoops. We are still trying to clear the final hurdle for our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit that has to deal with some work that the Texas Historical Commission requires us to do. I would say that in order to get all that funding from FEMA, it's delayed the project by at least 12 months. But AECOM is the engineer that designed the first 30% of the design. They've been selected to complete the 100% design. And we anticipate that if all goes well, construction will begin about 12 months from now in the third quarter of 2021, and probably be a 12 to 18 month process for that. So that's moving along well. It's just much slower than we'd like because of the regulatory hurdles we have to clear just to get the permit and to make sure we qualify for as much funding as we can.
Next question is, what about repairs to the 99 Bridge Foundation?
So those are handled by the Toll Road Authority, and Bill,
Right.
maybe you can talk to that a little bit.
I'm not totally up to speed. I know that they're in the process of, I know they did improvements on it after Harvey, but I'm not aware of them doing anything more on it. Did we say the toll road, right? We're not talking about 59.
They were talking about 99, I think, and I
Yeah.
think that they're satisfied that the joint effort that we had, LID 7 and the Toll Road Authority put in what's called a containment wall
Right.
with these 80-foot piers, concrete piers, steel reinforced. And for them, they're going to benefit from what we're doing as far as protecting the river. So we kind of have this, we're trying to encourage them to financially participate in the project we're in, but also remember that that was probably a $17 million project that the Toll Road Authority undertook. We paid about $4.5 million. So they laid out $12 million of their own money, and in protecting that bridge on the north side, they also help protect our bank, and so we recognize that as a contribution to the overall solution.
But Jim, I don't remember there being any other discussion of more improvements on that. I didn't. Have you heard anything?
No, I'm pretty sure that the toll road doesn't plan to have any more improvements.
Yeah, 59. I know 59. They have improvements proposed for it.
Now, they have some concerns about the bends. So the bends are the piers that are in the river, and the river is no longer coming in to that bridge at the direction that it was, for which the bridge was designed. As the river has bowed north, and of course it's eating into our bank and encroaching upon our levee, it is now coming at a different angle to the bridge. And so the Toll Road Authority is considering going out there and putting some coffer dams or whatever those dams are around the bends, but the design solution that we're intending to put in should marginally move the river back to its original direction. So I think a big part of what they want is they want our solution to go in, see how the river responds to that, and whether there's any need for them to do additional work on the bridge. I'm getting into somebody else's project, but that's as I understand it.
Next question. The presentation made to the NTRCA on February 10th, 2020 shows a map with the preliminary design does not show the demolition of 3 homes. What has changed?
Well, we didn't know what this solution was going to be back in February 2020. We didn't, we were still working through the options. So the presentation made to the Homeowners Association was the best information we had at that time. What else you got, Michael?
Next question is, you discussed aesthetics impact on surrounding property of new pump station, any potential impact on remaining homes, ground shifting with the digging of the 3 lots and removal of dirt?
Bill, why don't you answer that one, please?
Yeah, no, we don't anticipate any ground shifting or anything like that. I mean, please understand that excavation much deeper than what we're proposing for this project and other projects similar to that occur all the time around existing homes. We have a top-notch geotechnical firm that's on our team, and you know, I will certainly discuss that concern with them, but based on my 25 years of experience, we have never had issues like that.
Yeah, and our decision to acquire 3 homes went into that also.
Yeah, I mean, we've got so much distance from where we're going to be doing the major excavation from any home. I mean, it is a good distance. It's got to be at least 100 feet.
What is the plan for the older station once the new one is completed? Can it be rebuilt?
So let me talk to that one a little bit, Bill. One of the big advantages of the second pump station, the one we're proposing on the north side, is that we would have 2 separate independent pump stations. Now, the board hasn't discussed any options for the existing pump station, but that's clearly out there. It has 4 pumps in it now. That's 88,000 gallons per minute. We've done some sort of back of the napkin work that we might be able to increase that to 150,000 without major construction rework. But at this point, we're focusing on the north side. We plan to get the north side in place, up and running. And then while the board may have some discussions about the south pump station and what will happen to it ultimately, any work on that is certainly after we finish the north side. But there's optionality there. And I think what we would like to be able to do is put ourselves in a position that if we had to do work on the north side pump station, that we could utilize the south side pump station and temporarily or for a short term take down the north side. Now, I don't want to get into that too much because we have to protect the community and you have to keep enough pumpage online. So the short answer is we don't have any plans for it yet, but we're keeping our options open.
Next question, were all 3 structures that flooded during Harvey homes? And if so, how much water did they have in their homes?
1 home flooded. It got about a ½ inch of water in it. The other 2, I think, were garages. And I think that's it. Jeff, you may have better information.
Let me, okay. In the Greystone area, we had the 1 house that was mine that flooded, and it was probably about an inch of water. We had 8 homes that the garages got water in them. So when you say structure flooded, I'm not sure exactly, what criteria you use. We had 3 homes that had debris piles from their garages in the street after Harvey.
Next question is, you stated the new construction of the station almost meets regulation recommended needs. Why are we not meeting or exceeding them?
So ask the question again. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
State it again, Michael.
You stated that the new construction of station almost meets regulators' recommended needs. Why are we not meeting or exceeding them?
Okay, well, the pump station will definitively meet all regulations. I think what the caller is asking is, right now, the elevation, or should I say the freeboard requirement in Fort Bend County for new construction is a 2-foot freeboard. We are providing 18 inches of freeboard, 1.5 foot of freeboard. I think that's probably what they're asking.
And that new standard came online January of 2020, right, Bill?
Yeah, they just adopted at the beginning of this year.
So what we don't want to do is we don't want to go back and start having to redo the work. When you look at the increasing the size of the pump station from 66,000 to basically 280,000, that's a major improvement. The south pump station may go toward getting an extra 6 inches of freeboard, but also remember that we're having to add detention too. So this is an integrated effort, combined solution. And the board's chosen to move forward with this, especially given that these are brand new regulations that came out. But I think long-term, we're going to look at ways that we can economically improve flood protection. We're also very conscious of the tax rate too. 43 cents is quite high. Other areas are higher, but we've decided to move forward with this, get this online, and then we'll reevaluate whether we want to do any additional work.
Is it possible to post the meeting's minutes faster than every 2 months? It seems to me that minutes can be approved at next meeting. It would help keep the community up to date.
Well, let's let our attorney answer that one. You still out there, Chris?
I am. Hang on, I'm turning everything back on. So minutes are presented to the board in draft form and then are approved. They're then delivered to your communications team, and it's communications team that posts the minutes. So they're available in final form, at least prepared in final form, shortly after a board meeting. Now, remember, the board meets twice a month, but for administrative matters, those matters are only considered at the meeting in the first week of the month. Then there'll be a project-specific board meeting in the middle of the month, and minutes are presented for approval at subsequent board meetings. So there is an inherent up to 2 weeks plus a few days lag in simply preparing them and having them approved by the board. But we've heard this concern from residents in the past, and we'll do everything we can to expedite. And when I say we, I mean the law firm that prepares the minutes and the communications team that makes them available on the website. We'll do everything we can to get that process expedited as much as it can.
But theoretically, it's at least 5 weeks, right? We have a board meeting and then you prepare the minutes, then we approve them at the following meeting, which is 1 month later. And then you hand those over to Touchstone, our communications group, and they can put those up nearly immediately.
Well, so, the minutes, you're generally correct as to the first meeting, first of the month meeting. As to the second meeting of the month, it can be, a 2 week plus a few days lag.
Oh, okay, that's right. We're trying to be as open as we can, so we will continue to work on that. All right, Michael, what else you got?
The next question was, which was the second best alternative and how did its cost compare? I did let the asker and everybody attending know that that document is on the website, but did you want to speak any further to that?
I guess it's on an engineering standpoint, it's not on a financial standpoint, it would probably be the west option. But you're talking many millions of dollars more, and but it still has access problems. So, but yeah, I would guess the west option on an engineering standpoint, but on an economic standpoint, it's a bad option because it's very expensive. Remember, the goal here is to accomplish the pumping capacity that we need, but also have a plant that is operational, that can be easily operated. Because understand, we got human beings operating this plant. Everybody's in stress mode trying to make sure that everything's done right. And if we set them up to fail, to make things difficult, it doesn't work out. You can spend a lot of money and you don't get the outcome that you're expecting. But
yeah, I think when we looked at these, give me a second, but when we looked at the options, the one we chose stood out. We had other options, but none of them were really attractive. It wasn't like, hey, if we can't do this one, then we'll do this one. There's an option where we would put the pumps on the north side, but then distribute the equipment all over the place. Remember, operators need to run this during a hurricane. So you have hurricane force winds, rains, the ground soggy, it's at night. And so their safety is an important component of the decision-making process.
yes, definitely.
And there wasn't, if we can't do this one, then let's do this one. It was like, none of these really work very well, except for the one we chose.
That's correct.
All right, next we have 4 questions that are all addressing kind of the same question. How will the additional 115 acre feet of new storage be provided? What is the status of the recommendation to add another 115 acre feet of storage? Where would the new acreage, is the new acreage going to go? And has this topic been discussed yet?
Yeah, so let me answer that one also. So yes, the topic, in June 4th, when we made a decision on the pump station, we also made a decision on the detention. Location of the detention is in the out track. So if you were to go back to Bill's original overview of new territory, there's a square section within new territory that is not part of new territory. It's not even part of the city of Sugar Land. I'll let him scroll there. Wait, go back down.
So it's right in this area right here is where we're looking.
Right, and so that involves the acquisition of land similar to what we're doing here for the pump station. It is sensitive, but we know the location, we know the design. We've reached out to all of the landowners. We're well along in that process. Does not affect any new territory homeowner, but it does affect at least one other homeowner living in the out track. And in this process, we strive to treat everyone. There's a minimum amount of dignity and respect that everybody deserves in this process. So we're trying to move methodically through that to acquire that land. But we have found the land. We do know where we're going, and we are on the path to implement the existing, the new 115 acre feet. Let's leave it there, Michael. Are there other questions?
There are other questions. The next one is, what's the status with regards to the levee as maintenance or increasing its height?
No plans to increase the levee height. We feel that the existing levees on the east, south, and west side are adequate. We have plans to address the corners, the northeast and the northwest corner. And then the board has not yet begun discussions about what a north levee solution looks like. There are other projects in play regionally, but to answer the question is there's no plans to raise the height of the levees. We feel that those are more than sufficient.
The next question is, where can I submit a question for the board? I answered publicly that outside of meetings, you can submit through the LID website, but did you want to speak any further to that question?
Cindy, why don't you answer that one?
Thank you, Jim. This is Cindy Picasso. We are open to all questions. We want to make sure that we are looking at every option that we have and that we are answering every question that you have. So there are several options that you can utilize. One is obviously tonight, if you want to, you can put your question in the chat and we will do our best to answer it tonight for you. You can attend any of our meetings. We are doing those online as we are this meeting. You are welcome to attend any of those. And we begin each one of those meetings with a time for residents to ask questions or to just make comments if you have comments that you'd like for us to hear. And then the last way is that you can contact us through the website at any time. So you can post a question there. We will get that question and we will make sure that we get an answer and get that back to you as quickly as possible. And Jim, I think that those are really our best suggestions. And again, as Jim said, we're your neighbors. We have struggled with making the right decisions all along. And I think that you have done, as residents, a really good job of putting together 5 people who have differing opinions, who are able to have frank conversations with each other to make sure that we are all on board with doing what is right and what is best for protecting all of us as homeowners, also property value. So we do appreciate your time being here tonight, and we do appreciate all of your questions. So please make sure that you ask any question that you have so that we have the opportunity to answer it for you.
Cindy, this is Bill. Also, if the caller has ever got a question that is technical that I can answer, please feel free to call me. I've got my number out there. That's my cell phone.
Thank you, Bill.
Next
Okay,
question.
Go.
Next question is, the building looks quite large. Will there be meeting rooms or anything else in the building?
The plan currently is to provide a very small sleeping quarters in it and a bathroom, but the rest of it at this point in time is to occupy all the controls. The size that I have there is based on information I got from my electrical engineer. And I added a little bit more room for the room for sleeping quarters and a bathroom.
Can you tell us who owns the outtake property?
There's
No.
probably 7 different landowners.
Yeah, not at this time.
During the construction phase, will any school or school zones going to be impacted by construction vehicles? The streets can become quite constricted as parents pick up and drop off their students.
We will certainly evaluate where schools are and do everything we can to avoid the schools. I will sit down with Mike Stone. Mike has got many years of construction experience as a construction manager, and he and I will figure out the best route. My assumption, without getting into a lot of details, but my assumption would be that they would be coming in and out on New Territory Boulevard, and I don't believe there's a school on that side of the highway. So
Actually, Bill, they'd be coming through on Cunningham Creek, so they're going to be going past Brazos Bend Elementary. And so we'll have to make accommodations there that we don't do it during, during school loading and unloading hours.
there's not another route in. That's the only way in and out.
That's the only route in and out, Cunningham Creek. Yeah, Cunningham Creek.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map here. Yep, I guess I'm wrong. Sorry.
But it's a good question, right? We can't have heavy equipment going through there when kids are walking to school or when they're going home. So we'll pay special attention to that.
Yes.
I believe at this time we've answered all of the questions in part or in whole. There was a lot on the 115 acre feet of retention. But if there's any other questions, this would be the time to ask them before we come to a close.
Michael, are there any other questions being offered?
It does not appear that there's any other questions at this time.
Okay, any concluding remarks from the board?
Not from me. Anybody else want to speak up?
This is Director Picasso. And again, I just wanted to tell everyone thank you for being on the call tonight and for caring enough about what we're doing to ask questions. There were some very good questions that were asked tonight, and we really do appreciate all of your feedback and all of your questions.
Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, given that, again, that this is a formal board meeting, I would need a motion and entertain a motion from the board to formally adjourn.
This is Director Picasso, and I'll make the motion to formally adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second on that motion?
This is Director Kazmierzak. I'll make that second.
Okay, on that motion made and seconded by roll call vote of the board, Jim,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
and Michael.
Aye.
Okay, the meeting is formally adjourned. Thanks
Good
to
night.
all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.